Little music to start it up. It's okay to bob. You can smile. A little bit more. I love starting my presentations with music because music unites us, music inspires us, and music often tells a story that words won't. Okay, so this is going to be one of the hardest talks I've given yet. I've already explained this to Janet. Normally I'm brought in as an expert, like I've already done a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to tell you how awesome I've done. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have Les's numbers, right? I'm with Krista. It was really hard to follow Les. I want to pause real quick because there have been some amazing, amazing presenters here, and I just really want to say thank you to them. I know they might see it later, but if we can give them a round of applause, that'd be great. Thank you. I also love giving the last presentation because I get to sit the whole time, kind of learn, and then consolidate and say, okay, here's what we should really be focusing on. All right? Following Les makes it a little bit more difficult, but that's okay. That's okay. So I am not here as the ear of President Obama. I don't give presentations to the Royal British Academy. Okay, I don't have 3 bestsellers. I'm not on Wall Street. I'm here as someone who is just shy of getting this proposal out to editors. I am here as someone who has been on this journey for the last 25 months or so, okay? And all the dips and all the highlights and all the stuff that happens. That's what I'm here as today. And we want to focus on getting it done because you've heard so much, and I understand because I'm there too, right? My list of things to do has quadrupled and tripled. I just said that. Anyways, my list of things to do have increased considerably, and I know it can be overwhelming, okay? But there's something that I want you to know, and I want you to take away with it, okay? As you start your author's journey, no matter which publishing route you take, no matter which launch path you take, you are entering a no man's land, okay? You are entering uncharted territory, and it is disruptive. It is disruptive because there are so many changes happening in publishing and technology. It is disruptive because your personal journey changes every step you take. Every time you give a talk, you meet new people. It changes your environment. It changes the world every time you take a step. Understand that, because what I want you to do is to embrace the no man's land. Don't fight it. Don't sit there, wish and hope and wait for it to change, because the fact of the matter is, there is no map in this territory. There is no map. The terrain changes every day. I started this journey 2 years ago or so. That was before the Domino Project. That was before Book Baby. That was before, a lot of different things. If you spent all that time trying to figure out, okay, what's the landscape? What's the landscape? What's the map? You would never actually get anything done. Right? You'd become a consultant about the landscape. Which there's good reasons to have that, but if you're wanting to write the book, you have to write the book. Right? You have to get that message out there in the world. The skills that you need to navigate the no man's land are fundamentally different than navigating someplace where there's a map. It's not like you're standing in a mall and there's like, I am here and I'm trying to get to Dillard's or I'm trying to get some sugar, so where's Cinnabon, right? It's not like that. It's fundamentally not like that. And I want you to understand that, because when you wake up in the morning and you have no idea what the hell to do, guess what? You're with every other author out there. And I want to add, this is true amongst second authors. Their sophomore project feels just as awkward as their first project does. I know because I coach some of them, I talk to a lot of them, and I end up in awesome workshops with a bunch of them too. And it's always the same story. You don't often hear that story because it's really hard to come up and reveal your stuff in front of a bunch of people who regard you as an expert, to say, you know what, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing right now. And I have no idea how this is going to work. If you're not traversing a no man's land, you are not writing the book you need to write. If you are not in a no man's land, you are not writing the book you need to write. Okay, so a lot of people bring me in to help fixate people on what to do, how to get stuff done. And apparently there's this rule that you find the busy people and then you ask them to do stuff because apparently they know how to do stuff. So let me get some context because I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I am frustrated and disappointed about the rate of progress for my book and book proposal. I am. I can be compassionate at the same time because when you look at that journey, we have sold a house, bought another one, moved across the nation, released 5 products, booked 4 lift-off retreats. I go on a lot of talks. I give a lot of workshops. People are asking me to do things. So many posts, ebooks, things like that have come out in that 2 years. I was going to have like a little timeline, but then I got overwhelmed looking at the timeline. And so I was like, let's not do that, okay? But the fact of the matter is, you all have busy lives. And if you have a business, you probably have a busy business. Very rarely do you have someone who doesn't have a busy business. It's like, oh, I'm going to write a book about my business practice. It doesn't really work that way. And normally you're in demand, you're at capacity, and then, as is the case of me, like a lot of people, a lot of my peers, a lot of these people that I hang out with are like, you need to write a book. Have you thought about writing a book? And then editors from publishing houses, hey, we're interested in, are you thinking about writing a book? And then agents, hey, you should write a book. And I had the Todd Kashdan syndrome. Remember, I'm a trained academic. I was like, no, that's in the future. That's when I've learned enough about what's going on to write the book. And that's like 10, 15 years down the road. Turns out not to be the case. Because whatever it is that you do, and if you do it at a peak level of performance and you're a thought leader in that, you have enough to start. You don't have to wait 15 years in the future. There's a quick curse. I wasn't going to talk about this real quick. But there's one curse of expertise is that the better you get, the harder it is to get better. The better you get, the harder it is to get better. And so a lot of experts will actually wait until they get better to do something, but the rate of them getting better is so long that they don't actually do it, right? So just keep that in mind. The sooner you start with what you have, the better off you are. Okay? So I'm going to list 5 different lessons learned about how to walk through the no man's land and how to really embrace it. I will tell you, it's a practice. When I'm doing these things, I make progress. When I don't do these things, I don't make progress. Take it for what you want, right? So, the first thing to understand is that you always have to remember your why. Remember your why. Why did you start this journey? For me, that's the people. I'm not writing a book for random people looking at a random book. I'm writing my book for Janet. I'm writing my book for Kelly. I'm writing my book for my lift-off participants. I'm writing the book that my clients have been pestering me about writing for years. Okay, and their actual faces come up. Now, this is important. 1, because it keeps me motivated and grounded. 2, it helps with the writing process because I don't have to say, how would I explain this to some random person? I'd be like, how did I explain this to Kelly last week? It makes a huge difference. That's my why. I want to write a book that sits on someone's shelf so that when they're lost and confused and they're trying to build a better business, that they can pick it up and say, okay, all the stuff going on, I can start here and do something with this. That's what I want. Other people, like Les, was straightforward. He wanted to increase his consulting rates, and he knew he had to jump that. And he invested everything he had to make that happen. That was his why. Some of your whys might be around just getting the book written. Okay, and that's good. But remember to come back to that because, again, every day something is going to change. A new opportunity is going to come up. Book Baby is going to come out. Domino Project. Someone's going to introduce you. And if you stay so fixated on the external conditions, you'll lose the internal compass that you need to navigate this no man's land. Quick aside, this topic came because I was talking to Janet, and we were talking about what I was going to talk about. I was like, well, I was talking to Danielle Laporte last week. Danielle Laporte's internet famous. A lot of people know her from White Hot Truth. And we were talking about the same thing. She was like, well, I'm going through this interesting period in which I'm making that jump from an online mediapreneur to a book author, and it's awkward. It's awkward because people don't know how to talk about you. Are you a blogger? Are you an author? Or what do you do now? What's your new purpose? Okay? So that's where this talk is coming from. The second key thing to remember is don't go alone. Do not go alone unless you like doing things the hard way. And if you like doing things the hard way, then you probably aren't here. There's an African proverb that says, when you want to go fast, go alone. When you want to go long, go together. This is a marathon, folks. You've heard it over and over again. This is not like, you produce an ebook or a Kindle book, as I like to call it, and you get it out there, and you're done. Right? If that's what you want to do, then do that. But remember, if you're playing a long game, you have to play it as if it were a long game. You can't play a long game as if it were a short game. Does that make sense? You all are going to hate me when I ask you this question, because this is something that you're going to balk at. So just prepare yourself. Third lesson learned, and third thing you have to focus on is, what are you going to drop to get the book out the door? What are you going to drop? It could mean downscaling your coaching practice. It could be, to paraphrase Gary Vaynerchuk, to stop watching Lost or whatever else you're watching. It could be relationships and times that you spend with people, right, that aren't contributing to that. But something is going to have to give. We are at a time deficit. We are at an attention deficit. And the only way books grow is when you give them the time and attention they need. So something has got to give, unless you want that to be your sanity. Okay? Carol Roth mentioned that, right? That, some things had to shift, and she was on the hard charging side. I'll talk about Gary Vaynerchuk. Who knows who Gary Vaynerchuk is? Okay, good. About a year ago, he came out and he had this big video that went viral because he was like, I'm tired, I'm losing my game, I'm worn out. And Gary Vaynerchuk is like infectious passion personified. Like, I'm sure he wakes up in the morning and like coffee bowels because it's not worthy of him, right? And if he wears down and that's him, imagine if you've got a more peaceful energy, what that might be like, okay? Something is going to have to give. Fourth key lesson learned. Having an idea garden will save your sanity. Now, let me explain an idea garden real quick. This is a framework that I've written about on productive flourishing. An idea garden is just a safe place to put all the random ideas that you have that you know you can return to. Okay? You know they're not going to go anywhere. You know that they're not sort of jiggling around in the brain. And you return to the idea garden and you grow it. Like, this idea still has relevance. I'm going to tweak on it a little bit, but I'm not going to spend all my conscious energy working on this random idea. A lot of the authors and thought leaders and content-driven entrepreneurs that I know have a ton of ideas, and unfortunately, they think that ton of ideas all has to be worked on at once. Nothing happens all at once. An idea garden will save your sanity. Just think about what it could be. It could be a notebook where you put ideas and you return to it. It could be a box where you throw note cards into. Whatever works for you. It could be your phone. It could be Evernote. It doesn't matter. Let the technology work for you, but it's the principle that you need a dumping ground for those ideas. Okay? It will save your sanity, and it will help you focus on the work that needs to get done. That's the point. Lastly, get the book done in 2-hour chunks. Nothing in the world happens. That's a bold statement, I know. Nothing in the world happens outside of a 2-hour chunk. What often happens with creative people, and you're all creative people, is that we're like, okay, I'm going to schedule 3 days of writing. We are amazingly good at squandering 3 days. We make projects that are too big. We're not thinking, I need to work on this chapter. I need to work on this section of my proposal. I need to work on this small piece. Okay? As best you can, get honest with yourself about what you can do in 2 hours and schedule that 2 hours, as Todd mentioned, and get it done. Okay? 2 hours at a time. So let's just do a quick thought experiment. I'm running out of time. Man, it goes quick. Okay. Imagine that you were able to produce 1,000 words a day, reliably, every day. Let's give you the weekends. So 20 days a month, roughly. That's 20,000 words a month. How long would it take you to finish your book?
2 months, 3 months?
Yeah. Well, 2-3 months, right? Now imagine if you wanted to go on a big media campaign and you wanted to write guest posts. Maybe it takes you another month. Okay, what I'm saying is it's not that much time when you break it down in small chunks. Do it, step by step by step. Okay? So I'm running short on time. I'll recap those. Remember your why. Don't go alone. What are you going to drop? Your ideal garden will save your sanity. And get the book done in 2-hour chunks. I want to end with a quote. This is one of my favorite quotes by Joseph Conrad. Because remember, we're walking through a no man's land. We must be willing to let go of the life we have planned so as to accept the life that is waiting for us. We must let go of the life we have planned so as to accept the life that is waiting for us. Where your life will be post-book is dramatically different than what you're thinking it's going to be. However, without the finished book, it's not going to change. I hope this helps you embrace the no man's land, get the book done, and if all else fails, ship something. Ship something, okay? That's the worst thing, to have it just out there in the future somewhere. That's my time. Thank you.
Charlie, you didn't tell us what your book is.
I didn't tell you what the book is. The book is
Did
called...
he follow the lessons of Book Breakthrough? There's one rule, Charlie. You need to say what your idea is.
Okay. The book is called Beyond Bootstrapping, How to Build a Better Business from the Business You've Already Built. And it helps bootstrappers get outside of the bootstrapping mindset and to start building, and putting a business under the business so that it can be profitable, sustainable, and smart in the long term. That's what the book's about.
What do you guys think?
Can we talk a little bit about how that title changed?
Yeah. Why don't you ask yourself a question?
I'll ask myself the question.
And then we'll turn it over to you.
How did I end up with that title? That's the second title. And this is before we go to the publishers, which might reject it, and that's okay. It was Fix the Plane While Flying It, and then I had some subtitle I can't remember. If I can't remember it, nobody else can either. Part of it is because in small businesses, in the entrepreneurial world that we're in, you have to fix the plane. You have to work on something incrementally, and you have to use what you have to get where you're trying to go. And so it's a phrase I say a lot when people ask me to talk specifically about business. I'm like, okay, we've got to fix this plane while flying it, and how? And everyone understands the concept. Turns out that it didn't do well for a book, and I was laying on a chiropractor's bed one day after explaining this and soundboarding with a lot of people. And, I had the electrodes on the back of the neck, and it was like, beyond bootstrapping. And it literally, I DM'd you. I DM'd her from the chiropractor's office, like, oh, that's it. And whereas I said I'm frustrated with the rate of development, sometimes it is a long, slow hunch, and it takes a lot of time to get it right. You can't force it. Okay, so thanks for that.
Did you guys like the title and subtitle? Yeah. So if you have feedback for Charlie, we like to get all of the feedback possible. So thank you so much. Do we have a couple of questions, I think, for Charlie? We're good?
It was either really clear or really boring.
It was fantastic.
Very clear.
Can you tell me a bit more about the concept of an idea garden? Because I'm one of those guys that has ideas all the time, and it just fills up the space.
Okay. Let's not talk tech first. Okay, let's talk the basic idea. You have some great idea. Ooh, I should write about this. I should write about that. Just find a place to actually do that writing that you return to frequently. It could be a journal. It could be, Dropbox, plain text, whatever it might be, that you allow that idea to drop in the earth somewhere. What actually happens is some science behind it. You work on that idea at an unconscious level. And when you return to it, you're like, oh, I've already written about that idea, or oh, I've done something with that, or oh, here's how I can take this idea, but it's not done. It's not the time. One thing I didn't include because of time is learn to say not no, but not now. Not no, but not now. because you have to do something now. So those ideas can sit in a garden, and you could say, you know, I'm not saying no. I'm not saying you're not worth the time. I'm just saying I got to get this done.
You're
Great.
writing a blurb on my book.
Thank you. I would love to.
Excellent. I think I saw Ian's hand in the back.
Oh yeah, it was about the idea garden. I mean, I used that my idea garden is
Oh,
planted.
sorry, Ian. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, Ian. Yeah, no, I was, but
Okay.
yeah, just the mic.
Sorry, the idea garden. My idea garden's planted all over the place. It's throughout the house, and I use it, and I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. Oh yeah, there it is. I mean, do you have any best practices that you use?
So the tech side.
The tech
Yeah,
side.
the tech. Sorry, I had to ask.
First, if you Google Idea Garden, I'll come up first. That's the benefit of having a big platform. So that's one place where you can read more about it. I prefer to consolidate as much as possible because then your mind, it's relational. It's like, okay, this idea is there and I need to look at it then. Your mind has to track all those relationships where it's just the ideas here and I can review it as it is. Personal blogs that people don't have access to make a great place for that because you can tag ideas, you can do all sorts of cool things with those ideas. So there's a lot of tech available, and obviously I need to write more about this. But fewer idea gardens tends to be better than more just because it only increases the scatter.
Should we move on?
Thank you
So much, Charlie.
Oh, Adelaide, go ahead.
Well, it's half curiosity question, half best practice. So I really appreciate the point about having to drop things and give up. And I was just wondering, considering your practice, it doesn't seem from the outside like it's slowed down a tremendous amount, just whether you would share some of the things that you had to think about either doing differently or dropping.
Thank you for saying that from the outside because from the inside it feels like it's slowed to a crawl. Part of what we've done is we've hired on support teammates that take on some of the redundant factors in our business. So for you business authors out there, expect a cash flow drop. Just expect it. Because something's going to have to change, and normally that either means hiring somebody or stopping something, some revenue generating practice. And so my wife and business partner, Angela Wheeler back there, you know, we talked about this, and it was just one of those things, the only way we can make this work is to drop something, and in our case, it was both, you know, we downscaled our coaching practice is one of the first things that we did, which was a direct cash flow practice at the same time that we hired people, you know. And so that's how the business is able to go. Just as a case in point, I was talking to Todd. We had a quick little interaction about I wanted to get his books. He DM'd me. One of my teammates actually intercepted that and processed it all. So it was done in like 30 minutes. Without that support, that would have been just another thing to do that probably wouldn't have gotten done.
Thank you.
Does that answer the question?
Great. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.